What's up? What's up? This is Mrradillo back with another episode of Mrradillo's World. We're back with episode 16. This one we're going to talk about a variety of different topics. We're going to talk about, I forgot off the top of my head here. We're going to talk about nostalgia, and the aspect of like it being good and bad, because I think nostalgia can have positives and negatives, like most things in life. I'm gonna give a little church update, probably at the top of the episode, with as well as a life update as well. I try to do that every episode. Not that you care or not, but you might be interested in my life. You're watching, so you're interested in something, right? Maybe, probably not. Then we're gonna talk about the Raiders, the dumpster fire of the Raiders. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's start with this life update. So I started my new job on Wednesday. So it was good. It's obviously I'm still learning and things. I think it's going to be a really nice change of pace from where I was in the past. Like obviously I got that nice bump. It feels more like a career type job. And sometimes I struggle myself with where am I going? You know what I mean? What I feel like I'm failing. You know what I mean? Like life isn't lining up how I think it should. And I get to this point where it's like, oh man, like I'm not doing anything good. But which it's simply not true, right? If I could take a perspective back and just sit there and see the growth that I've had, you know what I mean? See the goodness that God has brought me and just see how I've matured in life and things are going well. Right? I don't know why like we have this thing of wanting more and more and more and more and think because we're not getting that more and more and more, we're not doing well. You know what I mean? So I struggle with that. So, it, and even in this job, like I was still showing up to work every single day. I was still doing my best. But now it feels like okay, I'm in a better place. Not that I didn't like the job, not that it wasn't for me or anything like that. Like it was good. It was fine. I enjoyed it. Um, it's like any other job, right? You enjoy it, you don't enjoy it. It happens. But I get in this cycle of like, oh, I should be higher than where I'm at. Like this expectations of where I should be in life. Like, and it's really it's foolish comparison, really, what it is. And it's foolish just thinking that life's kind of like this race, but like life is a beautiful thing that if we just stopped and took a second to just enjoy it and be in the moment and continue to just like love and be thankful for what God has for you. So that's something that like even in this new job, like I'm trying to get to this point of in my psyche and it takes every day. It takes every day renewing my mind, right? Because in my desire, I want to keep moving forward. And there's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with it. But I have to get to a point to where that doesn't like define me. It doesn't affect me. You know what I mean? Like I know I am content with where God has me, regardless of what I have or what I don't have, whether I'm in a specific position or not. Like that's that's redundant. That is irrelevant, right? God is good regardless, and He has me on a path. And sometimes I try to get ahead of that path. Sometimes I try to skip steps, but I end up coming right back to the same spot to learn what I need to learn, right? So the job is great. Like, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to learn more about it. And I think it's going to go well. I think I'm going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be a good job, right? And that's great. And I'm thankful. I'm excited. Nat possibly may come on at Henderson. She may have an interview. I'm not sure yet. Um, and that would be awesome if she got a job there. We'd both get to commute to Henderson. That'd be amazing. But we're not gonna put all our eggs in that basket and feel down if it doesn't happen, right? Like God gives, God takes away. You know what I mean? That's fine. He's still good. He still knows what he's doing. And if it's not his will, it's not his will, right? That's the place I want to be in. but everything's going very well as far as life is concerned. I'll have some more updates later on, probably next episode. I just don't want to get ahead of myself, kind of thing. We're still working on that children thing. We're not there yet. We would be excited once we get there, but we're not. We're just not there. Um, what else? What else was I going to say? Oh, the sanctuary. So just give an update on week 2 service and our first youth service and discipleship night. So it was good. So our second service, I thought, was really good. We had a dip in numbers, obviously, but there was a lot of people just supporting us there. So we had like 74 the first service, but we ended up having about probably 36 to 40. Um, for our second service, which is good because these are actual people that will be attending and actually be a part of the sanctuary. So that was good. I thought the service went really well. There was no pressure from the first service. One thing that I've really enjoyed, and my other leaders can co-sign this, is we've been doing communion every single service, and this not only does it put Christ at the forefront of the service, it's also a ministry opportunity for not only sanctification, but people checking themselves every week and saying, Lord, is there anything that's unpleasing to you? Because I want to consume you. I want to come in, like, I want to be in your house. I want to have you at my forefront. I want to remember you. And so, like, that's been a really cool aspect of doing communion every service. And obviously with anything you do, there's things that go well, there's things that don't well, and there's always learning, and things can be better and more smooth. So sometimes, but as far as organizationally, I think the church services have been going smooth. I stress out more than I need to, and I'm not even the one like leading the service or anything like that, but I just always am a ball of nerves. But Sunday services have been going well. I'm excited for tomorrow. I think it'll be a nice service, and we'll just see what the Lord has done. So we also did Sunday school, um, and that was great too. Sunday school. So one thing I got to learn, because I was kind of freaking out, and I don't know if I mentioned this in my last podcast, but I was kind of stressing about being like biblical, because that was one of the focuses I wanted to be with youth. I wanted to train them in the way they go so they don't depart from it, right? And I kind of touched on this last episode, right? And so I was struggling with the biblical aspect, like, because I wanted to go biblical, I wanted to go through the Bible, right? But then we were doing Sunday school, and it kind of felt like I was doing the same thing. And I want them to feel different, because Sunday school should be really about studying the Bible, whereas you can now be more topical and about things they're going through, and really they're interacting with the students and training them to get closer to God. And then Sunday mornings, if they come, we can actually train them in scripture, gain more head knowledge, kind of thing. And so, like, I didn't see that at first, but then once that clicked, I was like, okay, that's good. So we started an overview. We're starting in Genesis. um, it was good. I kind of ran through the material pretty quickly. Um, and so, like, I was 15 minutes in, and I was like, okay, where do we go now? So, but then I pivoted, and then we got to do a discussion, because it was harder because we weren't focusing on passages of scriptures. This week we'll start with Genesis 1 through chapter 2. And so it'll be a little easier to kind of go through, because we'll be stopping and looking at scripture and kind of looking at things and stuff like that. So that will be kind of a cool thing for this week. But that kind of does it for Sunday. I heard that Sunday school for the adults was really well. I'm not in there because I'm teaching Sunday school for youth. The message was good for Andrew. I really enjoyed our new series that we're starting about Christ specifically. I just thought church went really well, and I'm encouraged. Sometimes I get like, oh, is it going well or is it going not? Like, I worry too much. You know what I mean? But it's been going well, and I'm excited about our future. So we went to youth, and I'm always a ball of nerves. On Wednesday night, we had it at 6:30. We started in together, and so we're still working out some kinks with this. We started out together. We did a worship song. We did a little bit of prayer, and then a couple testimonies. So that was good. I think just for me in general, I think like it's hard coming from being all together, then splitting up into groups, and then like starting a service over because I'm used to just kind of leading the service and going through it. So that's kind of been um, it should be better this week because we're gonna set up the chairs differently, and we kind of had a table back there, and it felt too informal, right? So it was hard to kind of gear it to like youth and stuff like that. And our space is kind of limited in the sense of like what do we do with games? You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna figure these things out. It's just kind of the first iteration. We're always gonna be trial and error kind of thing. But I'm excited. I spoke about the servant's heart and really tried to encourage our students to really change their paradigm. And that's my goal for starting out here is I want our students, and our students are good students, um, but I want to shift their paradigm to focus on Christ and to filter everything through Christ that they're facing, and to train them in the way they need to go, right? We had, including Nat and we had about 11 students. Um, oh, I would say probably about 7 students, which is really good. We're excited about that because we weren't sure how many were going to show up. So it's going to be a really good aspect of youth. And I think we're just going to continue to grow. It's it's really fun to be in ministry again. Yes, I stress out and I freak out, but I think that's also the Lord encouraging me to step into a new place. You know what I mean? And to grow my gifting. And so I can train this youth up and grow their gifting. So it's kind of a fun little tug and pull, but I still will always feel these balls of nerves. Um, Next serve, I'll kind of do try to do an update every week about church and life and things of that nature. There may be more church aspect than life, but yeah, that's what we're gonna kind of move forward. Just give an update about the sanctuary. I'm gonna jump into this topic of nostalgia. I've been really feeling nostalgic lately. And honestly, like, there's nothing wrong with nostalgia. Sometimes nostalgia is really good. And you can remember a time when God helped you and took you out, right? But then there's other times where I tend to focus on nostalgia too much. I focus on things of the past and long for those times. And sometimes I miss out on some of the things I'm happening in front of me, right? One of the things that like I think about is the community that I had when I was going to church as a kid, like 13, and I remember, and these were great memories, right? But there's no reason why we can't create them now, right? But I remember back in Willits, like after church, we'd all go out to eat, or people would come to our house and we'd play games up until like 1 o'clock in the morning. All my parents had to work, but we'd be playing cards at the kitchen table with Junior, with Tyler, with my cousin Shaston, with Steve at times, with my aunt Susie and all, and we just have a grand old time. And I was thinking about that, and I long for that closeness with not only family but with that church community. And that's why I'm encouraged by the sanctuary, because it's not the same. We're going to be different. It's a different iteration, right? But we can tap into some of that nostalgia for good and remember the good times we had focused on Christ. But then there's this bad aspect of nostalgia where you get trapped in thinking nothing is good now because things were good back then. And if that's the place you're at, and sometimes I'm at, right? Like this is a trap. It's a trap to rob you for what God has you for you in this moment and in the future, right? This is why we need to not worry about tomorrow, right? Life is a vapor, right? God gives us the day, right? And life fades away. So that's why we need to just be thankful and be content in the moment. And I'm going to have some scriptures here. So I'm going to do Ecclesiastes 7 and 10. Do not say, why were the old days better than these? For it is not wise to ask such questions. And you think about that, like, it isn't wise. Why is it not wise to say, oh, it was so much better back then? life was great, everything was better, because it robs you of your present. It robs you of what God is doing in your life and his goodness. There's all this talk about, and yes, America is not in a great place, and talk about how it was better back then, but it can still be great today. We talk about the church and the revival and things of the nature, how the church was so much better, but it can be great today. We focus too much, and I'm preaching to myself, we focus too much on yesterday and tomorrow and not enough on today and what God is doing right now. God woke you up this morning. God woke me up this morning. How what a blessing. What a blessing that I get to live another day on this earth, that I get to breathe, that I get to see my beautiful wife, that I get to see the goodness of God, that I get to interact with people daily, that hopefully they can see Christ in me. What a blessing. And I do this like everyone else. I get to this point where it's like, man, I miss everyone. There was a time in California, I was living with Jansen and Christian and Chris and me, my bros, and it was a great time. It was amazing. We had a great time, but I wouldn't trade what I have today for that. Even though I still long to have that closeness with my brothers, like, I'm married. I get to have my wife. We get to build a family, right? Like, it's not, today is better than yesterday, right? Because I'm living it. It's great. God has blessed me with so much goodness, right? And sometimes we rosy the past, and we don't remember the struggles that we were going through in the past. We don't remember the heartaches that were happening in the past. And there's nothing wrong, and hear me, there's nothing wrong with remembering the goodness of God that he has done in your life, but you cannot consistently rely on the goodness of the past. You got to rely on the goodness of the present. God is here today. He is a living God, and he's wanting to do great things in your life, in my life, and others around you. But sometimes we're so focused on other things that we miss out on that goodness. Deuteronomy 32 and 7 through 9. Actually, let's read. Remember the days of old. Consider the generations long past. Ask your father, and he will tell you. Your elders, and they will explain to you. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when divided all mankind, he set up boundaries for his peoples, according to the number of the sons of Israel. So it's not bad to remember God, but it's bad when we hyper focus on the things of the past, right? Because yes, it is important to remember where God has taken you from, and don't forget it. But if you're only focused on where God has taken you from, and you're not focused on where God is taking you currently, right? Then there's a disconnect with how you're interacting with people, right? And we should be talking about our testimony. This isn't to say that our testimonies aren't good. It's this feeling of nostalgia that I find myself longing to be back in those moments and stealing the joy of today, right? And here's another verse. Isaiah 43, we're going to go 16 through 19. And the Lord says, he who made a way through the sea, a path through mighty waters, who drew out chariots and horses, the army of reinforcements together, and there lay there, and and there lay there, no, and they lay there, never to rise again, extinguished, snuffled out like a wick, right? It's talking about all the promises and all the good things that God has taken the children of Israel. But watch this next verse, right? He's echoing the said, I am the God here that took you from Egypt, right? But watch this next verse. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See what that I am doing, a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness, in the streams, in the wasteland. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. The Lord is here presently. The Lord wants to do a new thing. There's a new wine in a new skin, right? You can't put new wine in an old skin, otherwise it'll burst. Right? You have to have the new skin for the new wine. God is ready to do something in our generations. And oftentimes we long for different times and different times in history. I love history. So there's times I think about it'd be great to be in this specific history. But then I stop and think God created you for today. There's a reason that you exist for this moment. It's because God wants to do something for you and wants to do something for his people and wants to do something for his creation. God doesn't make mistakes. There are things that he wants to draw out of you. There are things that he wants to speak to you. There are things that he wants to do for you. So if you're watching this, and thank you for watching this, it's okay to remember, it's okay to be nostalgic at times. But don't fall in the trap of only being in nostalgia, because you're going to rob your today. You're going to rob your example for your children. You're going to rob your example for your family. You're going to rob your example for what God has for you in this present. And I'm preaching to myself here because it's like I get to these points where I don't know why everything's going great. But I long for things, and it's okay to miss people. Like, that's not even what I'm saying. I miss my brother Junior. I said buddy. I miss my brother Junior, right? I miss Tyler. I miss Nicole. I miss our Willits church, right? I long to have that group together again, right? But I'm not there, right? And I can't hyper focus on what was. I need to build what is. I need to be in this present and in this moment. We're doing the sanctuary. Yes, there's odes of the past, but there's odes of the future. Right? There's a new thing that we are doing. Yes, we have the past. We can't be ashamed of the past, or we can't be so consumed with the past that it's a hindrance to us. No, it was the past. It was good. It was bad. It was what it was. But now we are in today. Yes, there are things of the past that we can bring back. Yes, there are things that we should be doing again, right? But there's also new things that we can do. There's also things that we can be better at, right? There's blessings today, just like there was blessings yesterday. That's kind of where I'm at with nostalgia. I kind of got a little preachy there, and I apologize for my podcast people. But I was just thinking about that, man. Why do I always get in this mode of like only thinking about the past when everything is great? I'm alive. I don't think we remember that enough. It's like, you're alive. You're living. You're breathing. Anyway, I don't know how to transition this, but I'm just going to just do it hard sell here, hard cut here. We're going to shift to the Raiders and the dumpster fire team that I love. I will always be a Raiders fan. So, excuse me. No one's going to take my fan card. And if you even try, who cares? Who are you? Like, you're the president of the Raiders. Like, shut your face, right? But if they trade Max Crosby, I'm taking the season off. Like, I'm going to stop watching games. That's a wrap for me, right? Because, like, you don't take your franchise player, the player that embodies what it means to be a Raider, the hard work, the grit, the fierceness, right? The very poster child for Raiders, and trade him, right? If you do that, you've lost me for this season. I can always get back in because I buy the hype. It's like a what is it? I'm hooked. I'm hooked on the Raiders, right? But if they trade Max Crosby, I am out for the rest of the season. Yeah. So Raiders, if you're listening to this, right? Because I know you listen to every word I say, and I pretty much determine what you do. If you trade Max Crosby, I'm out. We did trade Devontae Adams, which I was fine with. I didn't really care. Devontae is great. This isn't to say he's not good. He's a great receiver. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Great guy, great person. I don't really know him, so I can't really say if he's a great person or not. But he was not on my priority list. I love offense for sure. I would have rather had Josh Jacobs than Devontae Adams, and we don't have him. I prefer Josh Jacobs and how he ran the ball compared to how I'm kind of like a hard-nosed type of runner. Like, I want to run the ball. I want us to have a legit running back. I want us to score touchdowns. But I'm also, if they pass a touchdown, I'm chill. Like, Brock Bowers is a beast, so I'm down for it. But we traded Devontae Adams for a third-round pick to the Jets. So he gets to be in New York. He gets to have all that media attention, and which is fine. Like, that's what he wanted. He didn't want to be a part of the Raiders. It is what it is, right? And some people like, I get the Raiders have been not a great franchise for the last 23 years, 25 years, whatever it is, since that 02 Super Bowl or 01, I can't remember, with the Raiders and the Buccaneers. But good riddance. Peace out, Devontae. You're still a Raider. Once Raider, always a Raider. That mantra is kind of weird though, like, because some Raiders suck compared to others, but you're once Raider, always a Raider. We love you. We love you. We love loyalty. I think the psyche of the Raider, I think, is a loyal one. And if our players don't embody that same loyalty, that's when, for us, they don't become Raiders, kind of thing. If your whole thing is like, I want to get out of this place, which I understand, like, it's dysfunctional. But we love this dysfunctional franchise, right? We have some other news happening with the Raider Nation. Tom Brady, the GOAT. And I would say he's the GOAT. I mean, I think there's an argument for Joe Montana. But I think Tom Brady is the GOAT just because he has that 7 Super Bowls, man. And he played in various eras of the NFL, from its tough hitting, right? But I think someone could make an argument. I'm not going to make that argument because Joe Montana was great, but Tom Brady's the GOAT in my mind. The GOAT is now a minority owner of the Raiders. He owns 10% of the Raiders, and apparently he's going to be heavily involved, right? Obviously there's still some bad blood between him and the Tuck Rule, but that was so long ago, right? Like, we can't keep living in the past. We're ready to move into the future, right? We're tired of the nostalgia of the Raiders mystique. It's time to create a new Raiders mystique, right? We love the Raiders mystique, but it's kind of been sucky here the last 20 years, right? Since I've been a fan and never seen a Super Bowl. I've seen them go to a Super Bowl, but I also watched them get creamed in that Super Bowl. Anyway, so there's things happening with Raider Nation. We think we're focused on next season to get a quarterback. They're playing this. I'm gonna watch this Sunday, but who knows what happens. This has been another episode of Mrradillo's World, and I thank you. Have a great day. Adios.